Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Dave Dobbs here. Please excuse the really bad light. It's the 13th of April today. And I'm just ringing because I haven't responded to. I'm just ringing. I'm just making a very quick video. Sorry just to very quickly apologise for not responding to any of the comments on the last two videos or the last few videos. I mean, I struggle with comments so much of the time, to be honest with you, especially if I'm struggling emotionally myself. And I went to my Auntie Betty's funeral yesterday, which was been a lovely process. She was 2 months away from being 100, so she's had a proper innings. But I'm 50 this year, or 50 last year, 51 this year. And she was 50 when she bought the shop, the newsagents, in 1968, which was the year I was born. So, and she was an avid golfer, and she'd had a very, very active life. And I don't know, it was just like, this was, you know, I see sort of like kids being born now, you know, friends having kids now, and them sort of seeing me, and I'd be that same age as my Auntie Betty when I first met her. That's how old I am now, and it's, you know, she lived another 50 years. I don't know if I'm going to quite make that, especially on my current course. But also, I didn't want to respond too much on comments about as to running or not, or take anyone's money, or if there's any confusion or they haven't gone near it, to be honest with you, because yesterday I looked to see, yesterday was the date on the 12th, and I thought, well, we can't do anything until we know there really is an election. Nigel Farage is obviously motoring ahead, full on, as we expect. He's all over the tabloids. He's all over he's all over YouTube. You know, he's their main man. This is the whole thing. The sheepdog and the shepherd are totally working together here, guys. This is one big plan. It always has been one big plan to get us into a free trade agreement with America, and therefore then hub all that trade into one place, and then break apart Europe and feed Europe into this free trade agreement. And that which doesn't join gets fed into basically a war against, you know, Russia. You know, it's a much, much bigger story, and we've made Europe the main scapegoat for this whole thing, and we've got to stop doing that. We've got to come out of that. And so now it's the 13th. Now there's still no official line from the government that there is going to be an EU election, and they're even saying they could pull us out as late as so I think it's 22nd or 24th. I think it's the 22nd of May next month. They could veto the whole election if they get us out on a deal. So Theresa May is gagging to get us out, even though she claims to be a Remainer. She has got her teeth into Brexit, just like David Cameron, the one who called for the referendum that just started this whole thing. No way was David Cameron a Remainer. No way. They don't care what anyone says. It's so obvious, this whole massive plan. And so whatever you've said in your comments, I'm going to start on those tomorrow morning. And because I can imagine there's going to be a lot of different ideas and a lot of different sort of energies coming into those comments. And I'm kind of waiting for the confirmation from the government that there is going to be an EU election. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to come. And you have to remember that it's the 13th day. The deadline for entering into the EU election falls, well, for me in the West Country, it's on the 24th. Some people it's the 25th, 26th of April. So that's like that gives me 10 days to raise £5,000, and it does seem like a total impossibility to me. But unless we engage in this, unless we take part in this whole system, sit at this great table that we have created here in the European Union, where all of these different countries that have been at war for 1,000 years suddenly sit around a great table, this is something to be honoured and respected and revered. Also, we have many problems with the European Union, but there's no democratic process in NATO. You know, and I realise that the difficulties with Europe are the Commission, but they are also all members of an elected board. They are the countries there within the European Union that make up the heads of the state, which make up the European Commission. It's still it is still a democratic process. I realise it's so flawed, but to blame Europe for everything, for all the woes the British government and the American government have done, and to see the woes of joining this free trade agreement and what it really means, giving all your power over to this higher judicial system, which are these member state dispute systems that operate behind closed doors to protect intellectual property of big corporations that can rape your country, like they're doing, Canada, the NAFTA agreement, the agreement that they call an off-the-shelf standard free trade agreement that has left Canada being the most sued nation on the planet. So I'm going to steam in tomorrow and I'm going to begin it. I've had to move my mum and I've been doing a lot of other stuff as well. So I've just been frantically trying to sort a million other things, plus going for my own personal sort of stuff right now. And I just didn't want us to create any hot air and try and commence something that we can't even make happen because it's not going to happen. But I think we have to just keep going. We have to just try and, I've just got to do it. And if it doesn't happen, it's okay. For me, it's about the intention and everything else of that. So there isn't a big window, but if there's enough people, like I say, I'll check to see whether money's going in. Right now, I just can't do it. Right now, it just burns. When I do this sort of stuff, it just like really, I remember going off and doing the Mayor of London. It was just like, I thought, am I going to do this? I mean, not that I had the 10 grand, just like I haven't got the 5 grand to run for the European Parliament. But at least I've put myself up as a candidate and I've shown interest and I've shown I want to be involved in that process. At least I've been able to express that. And I saw someone the other day, and this isn't a kind of finger pointing or anything else like that, because it's the most common thing. And again, excuse the lighting, it's just going down here, so we're just in the last little bit here. But they said they were quite upset when I mentioned the Brexit debate, which it upsets a lot of people, including myself, depending on what's said, I suppose. But she kind of like, she shot me down with, there's nothing you can do, you can't change anything. It's all a sure gone thing, it's all just nothing you can do. You can't really argue with someone like that, even if you could argue. But, for me, I've written a book to try and say don't leave. Laughing Gas was all about this. People said, "Man, you're mad, we'll never leave Europe." It's like, you don't understand what they're trying to do. But I've written a book, I've made I don't know how many films, constantly talking about this same thing, about why you don't want to leave and why it changes the whole Earth karma story if we leave Europe, if Britain leaves Europe. And I've devoted 13 years of my life to doing this, because in my heart, I feel I can change things, change the outcome by bringing awareness. It's just that my story has been so difficult because it's been so far out. It's been a very, very difficult story to bring to you because it's so far from the story that you're in. I'm bringing you Mars, I'm bringing you Planet X, and I'm challenging carbon dioxide caused climate change. I'm afraid the truth is unbelievable. The closer you get to the truth, the more unbelievable it is. And that's just the nature of the beast that you are dealing with now, moving through your own belief systems. To see the truth that's just sitting there, staring you in the face. So tomorrow, the comments day, and we're going to see whether or not it's a viable option of all the interest that I've had and not had, or whatever it's going to be. This has been, for me, it's just been a family time, and I've just needed to connect to that space and not get lost in energy, that things I can't change. And if there's not going to be an election, then I don't want to be if there can be an election and there can be some involvement from the people, so democracy, democracy coming together, the people coming together, the true essence of what drives democracy, really. Not the bullshit story, the media-led spin that you've come to believe is democracy. No, I'm talking about what real democracy is. People coming together in peace, holding that space in peace. Don't go into the panic. They're trying to panic us. That's what all this G5, everything, all of this is about, driving panic. It's all about frequency. They want to bring you off center, off balance, away from this state here. You've all got that space. Track back, big golden ring of light around you. When you're being tormented and you feel you can't cope, big golden ring of light around you. And breathe within it. We are more in control of our karmic destiny than you can ever realize. This is our world, this is our realm, this is our wheel. We are here, incarnate, now. You can change the karmic destiny of this earth by first of all understanding more than anything that you are not guilty. You're not guilty. All of this is just coming through humanity. Humanity is the conduit. You are a receiver and a transmitter. You are the go-between. Between various soul groups. The human state is a state of flux, a flux of multiple identities masquerading as I. And this is what's about to change on this earth, is this process will pull away all the interference. The electromagnetic bombardment that we're going to go through is going to be the tempest in itself. It's going to be more of a spiritual tempest. Only that which is absolutely rooted into the human heart can remain. And that ultimately comes to a human choice of the true I, which you truly tally. That's what this is all about. It's like a big game of musical chairs. And there's just going to be one human, one soul, and no backseat drivers. Absolute responsibility, direct accountability. There's going to be a lot of space in the human head suddenly. And this is the natural process of this cycle. Not always, I imagine, because even though it comes around every 169 years. Not always does it come the furthest orbiting objects. Not always does it come as close as it's looking to potentially come. And it creates an enormous electromagnetic energy. We wouldn't even see it. We'd having the magma of our Earth will obviously be massively excited, so that there'd be earthquakes and volcanoes, but physically we wouldn't see the electromagnetic energy ripping through this planet. And for soul, for spirit, it's a total tempest. It has no hands to hold on to this earth. The only root it has is the heart, the human heart. It's a total human choice, which heart that chooses, where each heart chooses to tally. The individual soul within, I'm talking about there. Because spirit comes in, soul comes out. This is soul reinventing itself. That's what human life is. That's what this incarnation is. You are. The human state is a projector to a higher dimension. It's to be real here first. So tomorrow, thanks again for your time. Again, really so sorry about the lack of light. But, you know, it's the 13th today. And so now we, like 11 days or something to get the paperwork in. So the general public are not going to even realise they can't even access this thing because they're still not even too sure. Obviously, Nigel Farage is well ahead. He absolutely knows what's going on. He is what's going on. He is Brexit. He is this free trade deal. And you've got to decide what you want in this. On both sides of the Atlantic. You sign up to this agreement, like, you know, you're going forwards or backwards. Take care. Thanks for all those of you, all those of you who have commented. Thank you so much. And like I say, we'll go through the whole thing tomorrow and make some decisions of whether it's a viable thing that I run in the European election, and bring that energy into the political arena. That's always been my message, was to take my message and take it into the arena. Not speak it from the outside, but speak it on the inside of the arena. And that's hopefully what I've, as much as possible, I've tried to do it, and I've had an obscure message. So it's been a very difficult thing to do. So I was brought into it through Bob Dobbs and satire, and I realised that's what it was telling me to do. And it's just been this morphing journey of just disbelief and understanding, and not knowing how to deliver such a peculiar message as the water from the Great Flood coming from Mars. I mean, it's just finishing on, you know, the fact that they've announced it's on Halloween, that they're going to announce that if by Halloween they haven't made a deal, then we leave without a deal, which is terrifying. So it's total blackmail. It's total blackmail. It's like, we crash your currency we crash this country into the rocks. We crash this country into the rocks. Or you sign a deal with the devil. And it's on Halloween. Remember, I always thought it was April the 1st, but actually it was, I believe it really was the kind of the fake alien invasion. The fake alien invasion. Martians landing on the White House lawn. Orson Welles kind of reworking of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. I'm sure it was 1939. Pretty much sure it was 1939 on the 31st of October. Just before the big flyby. Well, they thought they would have seen it coming in. You say, I think they got their dates all wrong. I think they were truly expecting a big, super close flyby of that object, of the furthest orbiting object. I mean, truly, we can just look at, we have, you know, if you follow my timeline now, and you can see how I've got to these different stages and these different ideas. It's so funny that on the 31st of October 1939 they staged that, they did that whole process on that same day, that whole same fear-mongering kind of crazy day. But they could, it's blackmail. It's total blackmail. It's total being held. I mean, this is just, she's another one. She's holding the gun to the puppy on the carpet, isn't she? And making demands. Yeah. I kind of see through how desperate they are to break the European alliance, feed Europe into a war, break it up. Everyone's running for the hills. Terrifying. You've all got some decisions to make. It's all in your hands. It's so much bigger than you will ever realize. And also so much bigger than I could ever realize. I just touched little bits of it. I was told years ago, it said small bits at a time, too much and you'll burn out. But then, you know, I come from a family of channels. A long, slow delivery of information over a long period of time. You know, if you're brought up by a carpenter, you know, carpentry. You know, it's as weird for me as it is for you, and it's not really kind of like, I don't do it like my father or like my mum could do it. I have to do it in a writing process. I have to write myself up to that point where I feel I can't write any further, and I offer everything that I can offer to understand the thing, to better understand my line of inquiry. I offer all that information down, and I put as much research, and I can take it to that point where I can't take it any further, and I make that as my offering of my half. And then take the time to be there, present, to hear the answer. You're gallivanting so far, so quickly sometimes to fill the void. There's a lot more magic in the space that we're so terrified of. This space that's about to be opened up in the human state through this termination of the ego transmission. And this void that we're so terrified of. Is full of more wonder than you might ever conceive in your wildest imagination. Within its silence is absolute abundance. The wizard's tabernacle. It's like universal access to so much that is available to humanity now if we come into peace. You know, what we got with this union was what we pulled together for ourselves after that Second World War, where we were torn apart through all the lobbying and legislation. We got the European Union. democratic process. We all come together and have a voice on trade rather than meeting on the battlefield. Freedom of movement. Many amazing things come as a result of the European Union. Don't blame it. Don't blame everything NATO has done, and the British government and the American government, all these interests. Don't let it fall on Europe. Don't be fooled by Tony Blair being put up as the head of Europe just so every time he says it's vital we stay in Europe for the war on terror. It's anything to do with Tony Blair. I think all the rest of Europeans are just laughing at the concept that Tony Blair could have ever been president of the European, I don't know if it's the Commission, but the European president, whatever it is. It's just David Cameron being put up the head. It's just manipulation. It's total manipulation. You've got to try and see through all of this. We've got to get involved in our political systems. We've got to get active ourselves. We've got to stand in these arenas and shout this out. Not just stand on the outside and shout in when we've given all our power away to these people knowingly, with awareness, saying there's nothing you can do. Maybe there is. Maybe you can engage. That's what I'm trying to do, is engage. And I carry a lot of weight when I do this because I know that so many people are against Europe. Blame it all on Europe. It embarrasses me when I go out there because I want to mend that divide between the Brexiteers and the Remainers and say you're all saying the same things. You're all beautiful people and you're all just being fed a story to divide you. You both want the same things. You both are the same things. You both look after your kids and love your kids in the same ways. You both honour the ground on which family is built. You're the same. You both want the same things. Just tell him why. You both want the same things. One's led to believe that it's a case of sovereignty, and all I can tell you is just for you Brexiteers, would those empowering the Tory party, if they get the Brexit and they leave without a deal and they take us into a no-deal Brexit, would they not go and sign a free trade agreement with America that would tie Britain up to these member state dispute systems that override all existing judicial power in your country because you just cannot afford to take them on. Each one is to the tune of tens or hundreds of billions. Just the magnitude of these court cases is absolutely enormous. You can't stand in the way. Every bit of your country can be carved up in the name of corporate profit, and you can't stand in the way of it. Genetic modification, designer genes, fracking, GM, you name it. We're on the same side of the fence that where everyone's saying we want to get away from is what we're walking right towards. We're walking right into. As I said before, and I'll just say again, they took everything that was TTIP and TPP, and they just took all that information when they were talking about that a few years back, and they just created Brexit. And all the stuff that all the information they gathered from all the free trade, all the talk of TTIP and TTIP was just like, or TPP was just like was just them gathering information ready so they could direct all our responses as their motivations for Brexit. They parroted all of the anti-trade deal rhetoric and turned the people's objections to those free trade deals into their arguments for Brexit. It was genius. You should put a big mirror up. It's just cocaine-fueled madness, in my opinion. It's just bankers, greedy bankers, absolutely off their trolley that are driving this. Pure greed. That's what we've got to change. Take care. All the love in the world. I'll check the comments tomorrow. See whether we're running or not. Ciao.